You're listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast.
You're listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast. My name is Sean Wilkie, and along with my awesome co-host, we interview the innovators in this space every week. This has been an incredibly difficult episode to record, juggling the craziest time zones, actually 4 different time zones. Ivan, why don't you go ahead and introduce today's guest?
Hi, I'm Ivan Zach, and I'm happy to introduce you to Sebastian Gabor. We're going to talk about client communication and retention. Fun facts about Sebastian. Drinking a sip of coffee or tea gives him crazy amount of energy. He's a former competitive Counter-Strike player. I love Half-Life, actually, not the Counter-Strike, but anyway, it's a different story. On the business side of things, he's a founder and CEO of Digitail, which we're going to talk about today. He is also a co-founder of Code for Romania. On the personal side of things, he's a Spartan race and Ironman finisher, which is amazing. And he speaks 4 languages: English, German, Romanian, and Spanish. Sebastian, welcome, and thank you for finding the time to meet with us in the crazy time zone where you are. Where are you?
Hey, and thanks for having me. Right now in Korea, so that's one of the time zones that Sean was mentioning. That's a bit hectic to coordinate.
And well, it's also hectic to coordinate if Sean is taking his day off on a holiday, which usually founders of startups don't do. But that's another story.
Or if you decide just not to show up to the podcast, Ivan.
That's a different story. So Sebastian, tell us what's going on. Why are you in Korea?
We're here because we won basically an accelerator that's organized by the Korean government, and that helps you basically to start some partnerships with local companies here. So they've been tremendously helpful in also getting the visa, getting the transport here, all the bits and bobs of putting this together, but also putting us in contact with people from the industry. And those were the things that we wanted to explore to see if they can help us in growing also in Korea, and then growing more in Asia. Because right now we are in some countries in Asia, but Taiwan and Singapore, most of them, but the rest are still unknown for us, and there's still markets that can be of high potential.
That's really cool. So, are they trying to get companies funded by Korean private equity, or are they trying to actually get the products to be distributed in Korea? What is the interest from
The latter one. It's getting the products distributed here. So trying to get, let's say, foreign innovation and bringing it locally here.
Okay. So, how is the veterinary care in Korea? Do you know anything about it?
Just a bit, because we're still in. So it's our 3rd week here, and the first 2 weeks were fully quarantined. So we were within 4 walls. So the same experience like in all the other countries we're in. But what we've seen so far is that most of so there are a lot of clinics that are getting more and more digital. That they're getting more pet parents that are having higher demands and expectations. And this is forcing, of course, the vets to improve what they're doing. But what I've seen is that there's all legacy systems that they're using, or pen and paper. So it's similar to what we've seen also in Europe and most of the countries there, or in more emerging areas where they still haven't invested in new innovative solutions.
Okay. Well, that's super cool. So we're going to talk about the client communication and retention. By what I read on the website and looked at it, your product is very similar, or is practice information management system. The emphasis on communication and client retention seems to be the right path, but how are you tackling that, and what is that unique about your product?
So yeah, and from a technical perspective, we are building a practice management system for the clinics, and on the other side, the digital health card app, or a pet portal for the pet parents. And the whole idea for us was to build a customer-centric ecosystem, right, in which we bring all of them together. And while we've seen that moving forward, the communication is key. And to go back to communication, what we think that communication actually is, it's a bit more than just the 30 minutes that you spend at the end of a consultation visit, or the automated marketing or client engagement, which everyone is doing now, which is mostly sending those reminders out. So we believe it's more than that, and we're trying to, because the vet is as the center of the ecosystem, we're trying to make sure that they have all the resources they need to build a longer term relationship with the clients. Because as long as you build that relationship, you're increasing the chances for the clients to trust you, to come back, to listen to your recommendations throughout the entire lifespan of the pet, not just for one visit or for an emergency, right? So how do we get the client back? And how do we replicate basically what the vet is doing in those 30 minutes? Because they're doing an awesome job there. but it's impossible for them to do that when the client leaves and when they get home. And if you see now with all the millennials, because 39% of the pet parents are millennials, right? And they're the ones spending a lot of time on the internet. They want highly personalized experiences, super engaged, but it's really hard for them to do that. So in other words, the millennial is coming to the clinic, they're getting the recommendations. Sometimes they're still getting them on pen and paper or some sticky notes like that. They leave, and when they get home, they're going to be online and they're going to see Dr. Google, right? So they're going to get all the recommendations from there, not from their vet, and they're gonna see all the ads from Chewy and all the other online players that are doing a much better job getting the attention of the clients when they're not at the clinic.
So, Sebastian, I got a quick question for you. I mean, it was, I guess, 3 weeks ago that we spoke. You just arrived to Korea in your 4-star hotel, and you were just about to begin your quarantine. What's it like being in Asia during this pandemic? I know it's a complete aside, but I'm really curious, so I got to ask.
Got it. So, well, now I'm a bit illegal in this podcast because I would need to wear the mask even inside the offices. So
Okay.
they're really
But we're not
strict.
recording the video. You're safe.
Yeah, don't worry, we won't tell anybody.
So mostly what I've seen, the biggest comparison to Europe and to North America is like they're much way stricter with everything. So they're not joking around. They oblige when we were in quarantine. They were coming every morning, every 4 days or 5 days. They were doing a test,
Oh
and
wow.
it's that unpleasant test, when they need to.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway,
Scrape you. Yeah.
um, that one taking temperature every day, and you had to report. So you had an app where we had to report everything every day. And if you don't do that, they're coming and checking you out. So they're
Wow.
having it much more organized and really strict because I guess again they have the previous experiences and they would really don't want to have a real pandemic of this. So they're trying to keep it like super small.
All
That's
right.
incredible.
Well, hopefully they're not taking temperature the veterinary way.
That's right.
No, hopefully not. No.
Sebastian, another quick question for you. I mean, we've been kind of in contact for the last probably year and a bit, I think, now, and I've been kind of watching your progress at Digitail. And I'm really curious to hear where you guys are as a company from a company standpoint right now. How many customers do you have? What's the growth like? What's the pandemic been like for your business? How are things going?
So we're working with over 400 clinics. So that's around 1,600 veterinarians that are relying on Digitail on a daily basis. In terms of growth, I guess you remember that we started off in Europe, but now we're heavily focused on US and Canada. In terms of the pandemic, to be honest, it was an interesting eye opener because for a lot of the clinics, it forced them. So we had a joke with who's the chief innovator in the company, and that's COVID in a lot of cases, unfortunately, because it was a big push for them to say, oh wait, we actually need to use more digital, or we need to use more products, or we need to rely on these solutions to keep social distancing or to offer the same level of care to clients when they're not there. And this also showed that all the telemedicine solutions, the chat, all of that is not just something that is going to be used now for while like the COVID times, but it's also a solution that can be used afterwards. And that was one of the things that we all the time tried to figure out. How do we introduce video calling and chat into the daily workflow even after the lockdown goes away, right? Because it's all about capturing those extra minutes. So not only the 30 minutes when they're in the clinic, but also all the time that when they get home. And these are solutions that can stay.
So you mentioned that the millennials and the Gen Z and I don't remember all the generations that they're calling now, but
What are we, Ivan? What are we?
we're old farts. Then so the communication, you mentioned that they require more communication than just reminders, and I'm totally with you on that. I think that we're so behind that it's like, oh yeah, and now everybody, those companies that put emphasis on reminders only, it's like, yeah, we need to more digital, and instead of 18 minutes or 17 minutes a year, we need to send one more reminder a year. So what is that additional experience that you're promoting, and what is what you're creating as the more constant communication, other than just marketing, come here, buy this, do this, and stuff like that?
Okay, so this would be a long topic to go into, but at least the basics. So first, we're creating a channel where the doctor is controlling everything that's happening, right? And this is the pet portal, basically, which is dedicated for the clinic, so they control all the messages and everything that goes out. But it also sets some standards, right? So first is that when you give an app to the pet parent and you tell them, hey, if anything happens, we're here. just write us a message, you're finally telling them that, hey, I'm here for you whenever. It's not that phone call where you need to call, you go through all the reception process. They might answer, they might not answer, and it's a real hassle there. It's actually, hey, I can just open the phone, which I'm used to, and the same way I'm going to Google, I can just go to my vet and ask them a question. So that's the first thing, having a channel. The second one is being proactive in terms of education. So after each type of visit, regardless if it's a vaccine or something more serious, they can instantly share all the educational material and also discharge notes with the client in a way that they can understand it. So it's a digested summary, let's say, of what happened at the visit and also what they need to do when they get home. And from there, that's tied in just in one click. I can chat, or I can ask additional questions, or I can ask for videos or anything that can help me when I get home, feeling that the doctor is actually next to me. And again, it changes the entire way you communicate. It's not just an email sent or some words scribbled down on a sticky note. And then, of course, if you go into the telemedicine, where what we're trying so with the clinics that we're working, we're switching basically the follow-ups that are being done with the phone, either through chat if it's a high volume clinic, or via
Hmm.
video calls. And it's a different value proposition when someone calls you and you see Dr. Sarah, or you see the vet tech actual face, and you can engage and you see a smile. And yeah, it's a conversation. Imagine us talking now without the video. It would be a bit, I would need to imagine.
I don't see Sean, and I'm okay with it.
All right, so these are like a few of the things. Then, in terms of all the e-commerce and the prescription refills, all the products, we've made it part of the communication, because in reality, that's also part of the communication, right? It's also an interaction that goes between you, and should go between you and the clinic, and sometimes goes with someone else, but it should go with the doctor. So then that also goes as a chat. So just one quick example here with how you can use reminders and chat in a smart way is that the system knows already when the pet parent needs to refill the prescription. So then a reminder can be sent to the client, prompting them to, hey, refill the prescription. And it's the same experience as you have auto refill or auto rebuys or reships from Chewy and all the other ones, when you just click yes. And then that information goes quickly to the doctor, and the chat can continue via the chat or a call. Or if it's a client that doesn't want any interaction and just wants them delivered, then the clinic on their side, if they have someone to fulfill the order, they can just pass that on quickly for the delivery. Again, it changes how you communicate. That's the main important thing. And it's a much dynamic, much faster communication that happens, and it encompasses everything, right? So it's not just me calling for booking an appointment or getting the discharge notes, but it's everything that goes on between them. And also on the vet side, what we've seen, and that's really appreciated, is the fact that if, for example, the vet tech has a phone call with a client, then nobody else knows what happens. Or if you had some discharge notes that you verbally explained to the client, then everyone else doesn't know what you recommended or what happened. So by doing automated things, again, if you have them in a record, you can put it in a chat, you can have it in a centralized way that everyone else from the clinic can see it. In other words, that timeline is not only the soap that you do and the exams, it's also the communication and all the other interactions that happen. So you finally have one big view. And I guess we're used to, right, from tech, because you have analytics, you're hungry for data. So you have all that data everywhere. But when you go to a clinic, they don't. They just have the records of what was written down for that conversation, not everything else. And we've done, because we do updates like really, really frequently. And again, stop me for other questions, because I can go this for a long time. But also an update that we've done recently and was really, really cool is that for all the communications that go out from the platform, regardless if it's a reminder, the client going on a website, clicking on an email link that had some educational material, all of that is recorded.
Oh, so you're even like chasing them? Do you drop a cookie on them somehow, or?
Yes, yes.
Wow, that's cool.
Because as long as you use, I mean, from a tech perspective, as long as you use MailChimp or SendGrid or anything in the backend, they offer all that information there.
Yeah, like we use HubSpot a lot, and that's just total CRM experience from this. So a lot of people that are not from the industry, they're coming in and they're calling PIM CRMs, and it's not necessarily, but you actually did create the experience where it's a customer relationship management software
Exactly.
rather than practice relationship management. That's super cool.
You're coining a new term here.
There you go. Hey, you're welcome. You mentioned that you put a lot of emphasis on the education, and so that would create a big project on the side on the content generation. And so how do you handle that? Because one side is to build technology, and then you're not a vet, and I guess you
Correct.
need to know a lot of people that are vets or write for vets, or there's content management, which is a big topic, because I'm kind of focusing on that right now for the consolidator. So what is that experience like? If it's not proprietary information, how do you generate the content, and like what's that process?
Definitely. So we are a team of vets, pet parents, and tech people, all in more rooms. I won't say one room, but we're in multiple rooms and
Yeah,
locations.
yeah.
But still, as you said, it's more than a side project. Just building the educational material for that. That's startups that focus only on that, and not only start like big companies. So what we do there is we don't re-innovate on the educational material because it's out there.
Okay.
And we're helping basically with integrations or just making it easy for the vet to create their own material and
Hmm.
saving it and reusing it for different clients that have similar types of cases. So it's one of these two. Either they already have something that they can use, or they start building their small database of educational material that can be reused in the system.
Okay. So you have some sort of white labeled, and then they can top it with their own, and then it's kind of a that's cool.
Exactly.
Interesting.
But again, there's a lot of companies doing really good work, and I've seen that. But again, it depends also on the clinic. So the smaller clinics, what I've seen that they're doing is they're mostly getting some YouTube links, some video links, some that can be shared, and that's visual. It has a high impact. And if you go to larger groups, you definitely they have a solution already just for the educational part. So you just integrate that, and you make sure that it's within the workflow and the conversation with the pet parent.
It's really, really interesting. The thing that really tweaked my interest in the conversation so far is this idea of following them around the web resources that you provide to the pet parent. And you're building this holistic view of that pet parent's interaction with a bunch of digital assets, as well as every correspondence that they have with the clinic, and encouraging them to have more conversations with the clinic. So building this, this database of information that can really help, I guess, provide better care. It's pretty amazing, Sebastian.
We're doing our best, and again, everything that we're building with the vets that we're working with. Everything that we're building is with their help, and we're getting their suggestion, and we're just analyzing what are the places that are still done manually, or what are the really useful things that they're doing and can be replicated across multiple stages in the life of the pet.
So for the clients, you guys have an app for the end client, right? For the owners.
Yep.
And then so within that app, there's quite a lot of startups and the companies, I guess, that created the owner app. And then all of them sort of didn't pass. And I know there was a couple articles written on it. I remember I was talking to Kavitris that all of them don't pass what I like that I heard term IDEX. They don't pass the toothbrush test. So people don't use them every day. And if you don't use it every day, it's kind of, and then also the channel, it also becomes a channel of inbound sales. So having an app like that almost creates like you're feeling like you're marketed to all the time. So, what do the owners say about your app? Do they ever feel like they've been marketed to rather than having a channel communication with the vet? And what is the best feature that the owners like?
Good question there. So the thing with the app is, how do you market it, as you said, right? Because you can push it as a, hey, this is the place where I'm gonna sell all the products and services and give you more information that I want.
Right.
Or it's, hey, this is a tool that we can use to better communicate. And what we do with all the clients that we're working with, we're providing them all the material in terms of like offline and online marketing material that they can use to promote the app. Because again, the app is for the clinics to engage with their clients. There's no other purpose there rather than that. So how do we make sure that the pet parents understand exactly what to do with it? And then of course increasing the conversion on that. So as you said, with the toothbrush taste, that's true, and we've seen that. So initially, because we built it super lean in terms of like small functionalities at the beginning, and then we started adding more and more. And at the beginning it was just all your medical data in one place. Then we added discharge notes, so we saw a bit of uptick when we had that. Then we added requesting appointments, so being able to book appointments with your doctor, a smaller uptick again. But what really changed it was the chat. So once we
Hmm.
added the chat in the platform, and especially the video call afterwards, that increased a lot because it really created a channel for communication, not only a place where you have all the data. Because again, having the data in one place, that's pretty powerful if everyone in the community would use the same system, right? So if you go to a boarding or a daycare and you can just share the information from the app, you have enough reasons also on a day-to-day basis. So it replaces the paper you'd have or any certificate that you'd have. So it replaces that. So it's a good enough reasons to change. But once you have the chat, that really changes the entire paradigm there. And that helped us a lot in promoting the app much more.
That's amazing. It's so incredible. COVID creates all of this innovation, and it sounds like you guys have been able to capitalize on it, which is totally awesome, Sebastian. We're running out of time. Every week, the same thing happens. We like to wrap up the same way every week. So we've got a couple questions for you. First one is a book, a TED Talk, a YouTube video, another person that's inspired you to kind of get where you have got in your career so far.
Okay, there's quite a list there, but I would start with Dan Ariely. I don't know if you're fans of behavioral economics or irrationality. The fact that again we're human beings, that we think we're rational, but in fact we take a lot of decisions based on biases. So he has a lot of TED Talks, but I would recommend the first book, so Predictably Irrational. That's one of the first books that got me into the entire landscape. And then of course you have Daniel Kahneman and a few other ones that you can dive more in depth, but that would be one book that I would really recommend.
Cool. Well, also we usually ask, do you know anybody in the industry that we should invite to this podcast so our listeners could enjoy it as much as they did this one?
I was trying to see if they haven't been invited yet, but Colette and Janine from Whistle and Pet Insights. It's interesting what they're doing in terms of smart gadgets and trying to fill in that holistic view with all data points that you're not able to capture from a conversation. And then also Nathan Drewbury, that's Shawn might know. So the founder of Rogue Pet Science, and he's doing a lot of great work in cancer diagnostics. So also a really interesting conversation there we could have.
Thank you so much for listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast. If you want to hear about our new episodes, please follow us on any social media channel. Also, you can check out our website at veterinaryin.podcast.com. See you next week.